we're on, but my computer says that it's a little bit of time, so I think my computer is just the lag. There we go. Welcome everyone to another great Facebook Live with Dr. Nelva Bryant. We are so happy to have you all with us, and we are looking forward to share great information with our two guests today. This will be the first time we've had like two people on the screen with us.
Right.
That's really exciting for us. But first, let me introduce you to Dr. Nelva Bryant. Dr. Bryant, would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, thanks, Greta. I'm Dr. Nelva Bryant. I'm a veterinarian, but I'm doing something a little bit different with my career. I am actually working in the airline industry. And based upon that, we're in the airline industry, sorry. I work with Delta Airlines. I've been on staff with them since 2018. And based upon working with them and my observations, I've developed When Pets Fly, in the information basically to share how to prepare your pets for air travel. Throughout these few years, met quite a few interesting people that are also stakeholders in pet travel and that have a lot of input that I think will help pet parents prepare. Today, I want to introduce one person as for the first time, the other ones for the second time, but for individuals that actually have a stakehold in the airline industry or transportation of your pets by air. So that's my goal with the Facebook Lives, is to share the information to educate pet parents and my fellow veterinarians on pet travel. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm passionate about.
Well, myself, as your resident pet parent, I'm loving all the information that I am learning on here as a pet parent. And one of the things is that, a lot of the things that pet parents have to prepare for and crates that we have to get and the things that we have to do with our pets translate to even transportation that with animals that are bigger than cats and dogs. I loved when we had Rochelle on here talking about transporting zoo animals. And, really, it doesn't matter the size of the animal. All of us kind of can learn from one another. So I love how we're expanding into having other people come on here.
What I've learned and I love hearing is we're also echoing the same thing. Doesn't matter if it's a zoo animal or talking with, last week we had Juan Deveres from Delta Airlines. He's a live animal program manager there. He kind of said the same thing. Rochelle with the zoo said the same thing. I'm trying to think who else. Angela Passman said the same thing. Main thing as far as preparing pets for air travel, a common feature for any animal is they have to be acclimated to being confined in that travel crate. Again, doesn't matter if it's a bird, doesn't matter if it's a elephant. They have to be acclimated to transport in that crate. So I love that. I love being around people that kind of have the same mindset, and we're all saying the same thing. So it's perfect. So if you hear it more than once, it must be true.
Absolutely. And besides the crate, the other common theme that I picked up on was the paperwork that has to be in order. So we have positive pet health certificates that help for your pet to get the health certificates in line, and working with the veterinarian and the pet parents so that the animal can come and go to the different destinations. And then also Rochelle was mentioning that your paperwork has to be in order. So they have their own version of pet health certificates for lions and tigers and bears.
Yeah. I mean, for zoo animals, for their transport, especially if they're going internationally, or sometimes even internationally and also to different states, there's specific permits. You might have to need get approval from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. So there's regulations regarding the transportation of all animals that we need to be aware of. So you can't just ship whatever you want, wherever you want, because they're regulated, and we have to realize that. So when you're preparing for your trip, and again, it could be a zoo animal or your personal pet, make sure you comply and make sure that as far as a health certificate for domestic travel, international health certificate for going internationally. So just make sure you have all those things in order for the animal, and positive positives pet health certificates. They're a great organization to work with in reference to that. But now,
absolutely,
segue into our next guest that I really am very excited to share with everyone.
Well, hold on 1 second before we bring Beth on. I hold on 1 second before we bring Beth on. I wanted to remind everyone of two things. Number one, that you are doing consultations, 30-minute consultations. So if anyone wants to do that with Dr. Bryant, you go to her website, to the contact page, and you can schedule it at any time. And the other thing I wanted to remind everyone is we have a blog up on the site about Cunard cruise lines, being the only cruise line that allows pets to transport from New York to Germany or New York to England and back. And then next week we will have a blog up about their service dog program. So now that I've got those two announcements out, why don't we get ready to bring Miss Beth on?
Yeah, just to segue into that, one thing that I found is very, very interesting is that internationally, there's on airport grounds, there are either what they call animal hotels or kennelling facilities on airport grounds, but you find them more internationally. And I think we need to, you find them more internationally. Not sure if you guys are aware, there's actually one of those facilities here in the U.S. at JFK, John F. Kennedy Airport. It's called the ARK at JFK. And my special guest here today is basically going to share all the information in reference to that. And to be honest with you, upon meeting her, and I've also toured her facility, I personally wish there were more facilities like that all over the United States. We definitely need one down here in Atlanta, and I've told her numerous times. I would say we are behind the scenes discussing some things in reference to that. But what she has is it's amazing. I have never seen anything like that here in the U.S. I'll be honest, I've only seen one of the locations internationally that's not related to the ARK, but hers, to be honest with you, as far as the services, is probably 100 times better. But theirs is great. I'll admit theirs is great, but hers is just really more modern and up to date for the U.S. standards. So, folks, help me welcome Elizabeth Chouette. Beth, thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope I can live up to that introduction.
Yeah, you're awesome. You're awesome.
Well, we usually have an electronic clapper, so we'll just do hand claps for now.
I don't have a clapper. I'm gonna have to get some special devices. I need to expand and get my little devices, little things where I can clap or whatever. But I'll get it together.
Great, thank
Absolutely.
you. Thanks for having me, early.
Well, let me read Miss Beth's bio for everyone. Elizabeth A. Chouette, President and CEO of the ARK Import-Export Center, LLC, is responsible for oversight of all day-to-day operations of JFK International Airport's Animal Health, Reception, and Quarantine Center, also known as the ARK at JFK. The ARK provides safe and humane animal handling and transport services to airlines and their ground handling agents, shippers and brokers, corporate accounts, rescue organizations, and individuals in support of federal agency requirements for the import and export of all animals, including horses, goats, pets, zoo animals, exotics, and laboratory animals. In this capacity, Elizabeth works closely with senior TSA, CBP, USDA, and CDC officers, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey officials, IATA representatives, as well as airline executives. The ARK's small animal division, ARK Pet Oasis, also provides shipping and agency services for importing, transporting, and exporting companion animals. Elizabeth is an active contributor to animal shipping trade organizations, including the International Pet and Animal Transportation Association, IPATA, and Animal Transportation Association, ATA. Prior to taking on her responsibilities at the ARK, Elizabeth served as managing director with Racebrook Capital, developer of the ARK, with strategic planning, compliance, and oversight responsibilities. She is a licensed real estate broker in Connecticut, Florida, and Rhode Island. In addition, Elizabeth is president of George Washington Mortgage and Investment Corp., a closely held boutique firm that manages real estate assets in New York and Maryland and provides consulting services on asset portfolio acquisitions. Earlier in her career, Elizabeth managed to manage the operations division, credit analysis, servicing, and asset disposition of banks and equipment leasing companies, including Icon Capital, HSBC-Concord Leasing, Household International, and City Trust, acquired by Chase. She was a financial portfolio analyst with Booz Allen and Hamilton and Kaplan Smith and Associates, acquired by Boston Consulting Group. Elizabeth received her BA in economics with high honors from the College of William and Mary and a master's in economics from the George Washington University. Everyone, please help me welcome our special guest, Miss Elizabeth Schuetz. Yay!
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth, for being here with us. We are very excited to learn more from you about the ARK, as well as to introduce the ARK to so many people that Dr. Bryant reaches through her social media, as well as her website. So, Miss Elizabeth, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the ARK?
Okay, well, the ARK, as you in the introduction, is a health reception and quarantine center. We opened on January 2nd, 2017, but the planning for this began back in 2012. So I would say that we're intimately involved in animals for 11 years now, and it's been a real learning process for me and for everybody else involved in it. But the real crux of what we do is kind of threefold. One is, I guess, what everybody thinks about with animal transportation is you want them to be safe and humanely transported and as free from stress as possible. And that was kind of our initial focus. So, because that's really what speaks to you as a pet parent or as a human being, because we have such an intimate relationship with animals in our lives. But secondly, where it starts to diverge into a lot of other topics is the public health aspect of transporting animals. And Dr. Bryant can speak to this, having been with the CDC. Mm-hmm. But you don't really think about it. Animals can have zoonotic diseases that can be transmitted to humans. They also can transmit diseases to other animals, or in their whole process of living, they could affect the crops within the United States. And so the U.S. Department of Agriculture has oversight into the import and export of animals to ensure the safety of the United States agricultural products in general. CDC is involved, as I noted, with zoonotic diseases. They want to prevent any disease that could, such as rabies, which is their primary one with dogs, that could affect the United States citizens. Then Fish and Wildlife is responsible really for looking at the humane. They enforce a lot of the regulations relative to how are animals transported. Are they in proper crate sizes? Are they affected by diseases or stress that could affect them coming into the United States? And then the third part of what we do, which is the one that completely took me by surprise, was that there's a whole aspect of national security involved in this, in that, we're operating on an airport, and we have to ensure that nothing is either in an animal or in an animal's crate or container that could be dangerous to other people on the aircraft, that could be dangerous to United States citizens. And there's a really substantial aspect to national security in what we do, and that affects our day-to-day operations in that we have to train all of our staff to be cognizant of security issues. And on top of that, all those staff have to be able to be passed by FBI and CBP in terms of their background. So while it seems like a pretty simple concept, health and reception terminal and working with animals and taking care of them, it's really a lot more complicated than that.
Definitely agree. I was just mentioning briefly to Greta prior to here that, someone was asking a question about shipping sheep from Ireland here to the US. And I was telling her how, hey, that's regulated by USDA, and that's a potential animal that can be a source of certain diseases that are not present here in the US. And that if you allow these animals in, there's a potential for it can basically the spread of infectious diseases that can impact our agricultural economy. So we've got to be aware that all animals that enter the U.S. or transported around, they're all regulated. I love it that you definitely can see now with all the different agencies, you've got to deal with CBP, CDC, USDA, TSA, and then your local local state governments and everything that you're involved with. So it goes to show you how regulated this whole process is and everything. So people should not take it lightly of saying, oh, I like to take my dog wherever I want to go. No, there's so many regulations that must be complied with for the transported animals. So I think that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Our next question, what are common misconceptions about pet animal travel?
I will speak for myself when I started, and I think I'm reflective of the general population. Pets have become so part of our lives and part of our families that everyone kind of expects that they should just be able to bring their pet on board an airplane. And they may not understand that, how does that happen? And, so the most common way pets are brought on board that we see when we travel now is pets in the passenger cabin of the aircraft. And that's highly regulated as well. It's limited to right now service animals. And so you see more and more animals coming on. And then also small animals that are less than 20 pounds, say, that can comfortably fit in a carry-on crate and be put in this underneath the seat in front of you. So that's a fairly small animal. But when you move past that, your average size dog that may be 30, 50, 60 pounds or even larger, how does that animal travel? And most people have no idea. And so one way that animal travels is as what we call checked baggage. And that's basically you're checking your pet that's in a crate into the air carrier's system as a piece of luggage. And so a little luggage tag goes on it, and it gets transported to the aircraft and put on board with all of the other luggage. It is in a temperature-controlled environment. That part's not an issue, but it's different than cargo, which is what Dr. Bryant and I deal with primarily. Cargo is when it's manifested as cargo in the air carrier system and in the general transportation system at large. So the piece of cargo, in this case, the crate that has the animal in it, is assigned an airway bill, and that airway bill is completely traceable through all the different agencies, as well as the airline travel agencies like IATA, which is the International Airline Transportation Association, so that's a really complicated process because the airlines are required by a variety of different regulations to make sure that cargo is safe for the aircraft, make sure that the animal is safe, to make sure that the travel container is both provides for the best welfare of the animal, but also contains the animal in a way that animal can't escape. And so then the other thing that the airline has to worry about is weights and balances. So it may not be such an issue with a small 50-pound dog or cat, but when you get to large animals like horses or zoo animals, the movement of that animal within the aircraft can affect the weights and balance of the entire aircraft and could pose a safety hazard. So, so the airline has to really consider where are all the animals going in the cargo hold of the aircraft? Are the balances appropriate? And how do they make sure the animals don't move around so much that it could cause a safety issue for that aircraft? Yeah. And that's really complicated. And then as you already referred to, all of the different health certificates, import and export, and a lot goes on to becomes the responsibility of the airline that people don't understand. And so you may show up with your pet thinking, oh, no big deal. Here's my dog. I'm going to put him on the aircraft. And then you meet someone, or you're trying to get your animal on that aircraft, and the agent says to you, well, where's this certificate? Or did you sign off on this other certification? And where's your health certificate? And take your animal out of the crate and prove to me that there's nothing else in the crate. And so it becomes this very emotionally charged situation potentially. And I think so. The biggest misconception, I think, is that it's a simple process, and that it's something that you as a pet owner and you as a traveler are entitled to receive, that ability to transfer your animal. That's just not the case.
You know what? And I love it. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that I bring up at least I've mentioned at some presentations, the airline is not like UPS where they just take your package and send it. You as the shipper must ensure you comply with, number one, your destination requirements. So if that international destination or domestic destination requires certain documentation, you as a shipper must provide that. And then also you have to comply with whatever the airline says. So if they have a policy on sizing of crates that can particularly fit on a certain aircraft and all these things, you got to comply with that, because if it's either too big, it can't fit through the door, or weighs too much, say with larger animals, such as horses and everything moving around. If it's too big and they can't accommodate it in that particular aircraft, it's going to be a no. So lying to get your way and saying it doesn't matter, it does matter, all those requirements. So thank you for sharing that. Because again, folks, they don't realize, they think it's simple, but it is not simple. And a lot of responsibility falls on the airline when things go wrong, but they don't realize a lot of those things has to do with the shipper. They're not complying. Yeah. So, yeah.
That led really right into this next question nicely, which is, are pets safe in cargo or baggage hold?
Absolutely. And Dr. Bryant and I have both done a fair amount of research into statistics on travel safety. And it's like 0.001. It's a very small percentage of animals that are.
Yeah, from 2016 to 2022, about 2.6 million animals transported, or pets transported, and say 170 instances. Yeah, 170 cases out of 2.6 million.
Right. So it's a very, very small proportion of animals that are injured or have an incident or experience. I mean, God forbid, if death. But the cargo hold is actually, of the entire process, is probably the safest place for the animals. It's temperature controlled. There's limited lighting. It's quiet. So the animals, from our experience, tend to settle down very nicely in the baggage hold and or the cargo area, and are completely safe.
Okay, it sounds like you're more apt to get in an accident in the car than you are something happening on a plane.
On 285.
Yeah.
Right. Jersey Turnpike.
To stress what we've seen, and this leads into the Zoundz collaboration, is that what we see is that the stress the animals experience pre and post travel is really the most dangerous or critical part of the travel experience for the animals. But we can talk about that later.
Zoundz is really a gift from God as an alternative to relaxing pets. And I can't wait to bring Derek on. When I first met him and heard about the company, I was like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? So, he's definitely someone, and his company is definitely someone we need to share with everyone. But I wanted to ask, so do all animals need to be quarantined when they enter the US? Because I have lots of friends that actually bring dogs from other countries over here. So this is a great question that I'm interested in.
Right. No. So the answer to that is no. However, certain species of animals do require quarantine, like horses and birds and certain farm animals. Any kind of farm animal would have to be quarantined or evaluated when they come into the United States.
Mhm.
In terms of small animals or companion animals, the major animal that is quarantined are dogs that are arriving from countries that have a high risk for rabies. And that was recently imposed by the Center for Disease Control because of several incidents of animals arriving from countries with high incidence of rabies that they either had rabies or there was a suspicion that they had rabies, and that resulted in a huge amount of resources being spent and exhausted on tracing back where did these animals come from, who were exposed to those, and it's really a valid concern, because a lot of countries that are exporting dogs into the United States, and a lot of these are unfortunately rescue organizations, the standard of veterinary care and quality of the certification can be questionable. And I don't want to step on any toes here, but there were many incidents of falsified veterinary certificates. And so this was a way for CDC to impose a certain practice and logic on those dogs. However, CDC does have, and I encourage everybody to look at the CDC website, because there's a lot of detail there that is very helpful. So most of the dogs, even coming from those high-risk rabies countries, don't actually have to be quarantined. They just have to be evaluated to make sure that the microchip is in place and that they've had the appropriate vaccinations and titer tests to show that the animal does not have rabies. The ones that don't meet those requirements, yes, they have to be quarantined. And sometimes it's just until the test comes back, or the final test come back, or it could be 28 days to ensure that there's no incidence of rabies. And right now, I think there's 5 sites within the United States that CDC has approved for the quarantine of those high-risk rabies dogs, and JFK is one of those. And our facility, in our facility in particular.
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's perfect. Yeah, I love it. Honestly, yeah. Again, for folks to understand it, for those high-risk countries, high-risk rabies endemic countries, dogs coming from there definitely must meet CDC's importation requirements. Trust me, Beth, I was with CDC when in the past where some of these outbreaks did happen, were related to falsified rabies documents from these countries. So very familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and it did cause a lot.
On that note, where can people find out which are high rabies countries?
Yeah, just as Beth said, if you go to the CDC's website, they'll have all the information. It's CDC's dog importations regulations, their website. You'll find all the information there, and they'll list all the countries. There's a long list of countries that are high rabies risk endemic countries, but they have requirements for that definitely upon your return to the country. And you can't always laugh at this. You can't go and come back from this country and say, my dog is an American dog.
Yes.
That's not going to do it. Okay. It doesn't work for us. I can't just come across the border and say, I'm American. Where's your passport? Where's something? So they're going to require some documentation from you, because you can't just use that as an excuse. So,
right.
Yeah. Let's see. I think this one will show up. My computer is acting a little slow because it looks like it's changing now. Look, all our names came up. Okay. Let's see here. I apologize for this.
I'm fine. Well, as we mentioned,
there we go.
Making sure pets are. Yeah, I see the question. Making sure your pets are calm for transport is the main thing, as we said beforehand. As far as can all animals travel by air, I'll jump in on that a little bit if you don't mind, Beth, and you can chime in too. I think, well, we say all pets. I'm going to say dogs and cats. If they have a pre-existing medical condition, no, they shouldn't travel by air. If they have anxiety, separation anxiety, and just confinement makes them go crazy, I would say they're not good candidates. So not all dogs and cats are good candidates for air travel. They must be, number one, trained and acclimated for that crate. They must be in a compliant crate too. They must be medically fit or sound for travel from your veterinarian. And that's going to be more than just say completing a health certificate. It's really to look at their medical history, make sure they don't have any underlying medical conditions, heart disease, respiratory diseases, diabetes, or what have you. So you want to make sure they're safe. But your thoughts on that, Beth? Have you experienced
it? There are certain, as you know, there's certain species, brachycephalic breeds.
Thank you.
So, our favorite topic. Yes. So the brachycephalic breeds are what we would commonly know as snub nose, such as bulldogs, French bulldogs, certainly cat breeds. Those are restricted by many of the airline or air carriers because of kind of past history where those animals have been transported and they have breathing issues. Yes. And but thankfully, IPATA and a lot of the veterinarian associations are doing a lot of research into this that shows that even though there may be a brachycephalic breed, it shouldn't negate the ability of all brachycephalic breeds to travel, and that there may be other factors that should be evaluated that would enable those animals to travel. Because I think you all know, French bulldogs are like one of the number one breeds of dogs that people have, and so the restriction of that makes it very, very difficult to move those animals throughout the world or throughout the country.
Right. No, that's definite. So no, that's perfect. Perfect. There's also some breeds that
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's also some breeds that they've deemed more than just say the brachycephalic. They'll say that they're restricted based upon the inherent strength of those particular, say, dogs primarily. So if you got those dogs that are really big and strong, they could particularly rip out of these crates.
Right. Yes.
Those are also restricted. And sometimes they push them together as saying embargoed snub nose, but it's not always that. They just kind of combine them there because these dogs are really strong and they can literally tear out. And to be honest with you, I've seen dogs that aren't that strong, but just are cunning. Australian Shepherds, all those breeds, those really smart dogs. I've seen one rip out of a crate, which surprised me, and he wasn't big. So
we've seen that where dogs eat right through the plastic crate. So that's partly stress, but also partly some of the breed aspects of it, as you said.
Definite. So what were you about to say, Brett? I'm sorry.
I was going to ask quickly, so for the strong dogs, if they were put in a solid crate, like an impact crate, for example, the solid metal ones, would they allow as long as you had the proper crate?
That would be a better crate for them. The routine standard ones, they call it IATA CR1 number ones, or again, the typical rigid plastic crates we see on the market. That's got held together with the nuts and bolts and everything. Those aren't ideal for those really, really strong dogs. So the more design ones like Impact, I think Gunner has Magnum. I don't know if you've come across any brands too.
We do a lot of custom crates for those animals where you actually build the crate specifically for those more aggressive breeds.
Yeah, that's definitely what's needed.
The IATA Live Animal Regulation Handbook, which any animal shipper has access to, provides for very specific, it has a lot of specifications as to the size of those crates, the construction of those crates, the air access flow through those crates. So that's another resource that's really available to all shippers.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to bring our friend, Derek Garrett, onto the call. So I'm going to add him and then introduce him to everyone. So let's see if my computer can be nice to us. It is.
Oh.
Hi, Derek.
He's not in.
Okay, now, oh, hold on. Oh, hold on.
Oop, what happened?
Let's see if
Well,
it,
pop me out if
hold
you
on a
need to.
second. Do you guys see him or
No.
I don't see him? Okay. So let me hold on one second. My computer is acting funny on us. Let's see if this will work.
Yay.
Can you see me?
I see you.
Okay, great. Hello, friends. Greta, I wasn't sure if it was your internet connection or mine. I thought it was stable, but even when you
Oh,
are
he's gone
speaking,
again. Okay.
No, he's here.
Do you?
I see.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
you
it's
guys
that.
see him? I don't see
Yes.
him.
Yeah,
Yes.
Greta, I think you may have an internet connection.
Oh.
Can I do it on mine, or I have a button for add stream for him? Do you want me to do it?
Yeah. Go ahead and try it from your end.
Hi, you hear me, Derek?
Yep, I can hear you.
There we go. Good. Excellent. Okay,
great.
I hope we're good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was my internet connection or Greta's, because as we all know, the internet can change daily.
Yeah. Mine's working well today. We don't have a storm here, so there's no problems. Trust me, I was on a webinar. I was about to do a webinar for this one group, and a thunderstorm came through and wiped everything out. I'm like, sorry. So,
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I don't know what I'm gonna get from day to day. One day it's working, the next day it's not. So I wasn't sure if it was me or Greta. So Greta, I'm happy that it seemed like it was you and not me. Yeah. Sorry.
Not a problem. Well,
Yeah.
Derek, thank you so much for joining us. Derek is the CEO and founder of Zoundz Music for Pets, and I will do a quick introduction for you. So Derek is a multi-platinum record producer and entrepreneur. He's produced and engineered records for iconic R&B groups like Casey and JoJo and Bobby Brown, as well as many jazz artists such as Roy Hargrave and Sonny Rollins. Derek founded Zoundz Music for Pets, an app-based music solution to help pet professionals and pet parents calm anxious dogs and cats using species-specific music composed specifically based on research findings on pet behavior. Everyone, please help me welcome Derek Garrett. Yay!
Thank you.
Awesome. Glad to have you back, Derek. And I want both you and Beth here because I'm really excited about what you guys have done together. Number one, I love Derek. I love the music. Trust me, I have been talking about you to when I do practice on the weekends. I talk about Zoundz Music for Pets when you're trying to relax pets. Because trust me, in practice, they want to jump straight to medications to relieve anxiety in pets. And I'm like, why not try Zoundz Music for Pets? It's a alternative way to calm your pet and get them relaxed. So multiple settings it could be used in. But one of the main things that, us meeting each other as far as pet transportation, how can music have a stakehold in this whole process too? So I remember you speaking with me and asking if I know of anybody that potentially, and I'm like, yeah, I know Beth.
That's right. And look, and here we go.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. Yeah, I know Beth. I think it would be great because Beth, I love the ARK. I was very excited about the tour I had. It's been over a year, I guess now, but that was my first time and I was blown away. I think what you have there is amazing. So I'm so happy to have you guys come together on a project, basically. So that's why I wanted you guys to be here to kind of share that information.
Well, I will say, Dr. Bryant, definitely thank you again for introducing me to Beth. And it's just been great. Beth's my new friend. We're friends, right? We've been doing a couple of these, together. And I agree. Like the first time I went to the ARK and Beth, gave me a tour, I was blown away. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'll tell you what stuck out to me the most. And Beth, I think I told you this, mentioned this, but the fact that, and correct me if I say anything wrong, but the fact of how when the horses come into the country internationally, how they can't step on our soil until they go through some sort of solution, right, Beth?
Right, a foot bath,
And-
yes.
Right, which is just mind blowing, just like of all of the detail and the different things that take place. Like I just had no idea that it was like so detailed to transport animals, including dogs and cats, in and out of the country, or just even within the country, just travel in general. It's so much detail that goes into it. Very impressive.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. What now? I'm trying. I apologize again, Derek. You're just coming new to this, but my computer, I think it wants to take a vacation, and it's not quite acting right for us today. But I'm trying to get a question up for us. Let's see.
I see a question.
The first.
The key factors.
There you go. What were the key factors for each of you in developing the partnership between the ARK and the Zoundz?
Beth, you want to go first? You want me to go?
Sure. Well, I really have to credit Dr. Bryant, number one, because she saw the opportunity here and made the introduction. But for me, what we're trying to do is make this experience as stress-free as possible for the animals, and by extension, the pet parents that are moving those animals. And there is actually a lot of scientific research that mostly done on laboratory animals like mice, that where the pharmaceutical companies have put devices in the crates of the mice and on the mice that measure their stress levels. And really what that is all proven is that the most stressful time for the animals in travel is pre and post the actual flight. As I said, the experience in the cargo hold is very safe, but the pre-experience and the post-experience, where animals are exposed to unfamiliar noises, to unfamiliar movements, they're put on a truck or a transporter and moved to and from the aircraft. Sometimes they're in a cargo hold of an air carrier facility they have forklifts going and people moving around. So there's a lot of really strange and unfamiliar and scary experiences for animals. So the whole purpose of the ARK, and also the factor in Zoundz, is like, how do we reduce that stress? And when Derek told me all about his program and the application and the scientific data behind it, I was so impressed that I said, yes, absolutely, let's implement that at the ARK, and hopefully reduce a lot of the anxiety. Because even within a kennel, the noises and the number of animals in the kennel, they're barking, it can be unfamiliar, and we want to calm those animals down.
Definitely.
And I would say from my perspective, it was a no-brainer to be able to be in a world-class facility like the ARK, where you have I would say probably most of the animals coming through there are definitely anxious and have like real anxiety issues just because of the travel factor. So while we are a for-profit business, at the end of the day, at the core, I really want to help animals stress less when they're in stressful environments. So travel is definitely a area that we feel that Zoundz could really play a strong part in helping calm the animals through the process. And one of the things I will say, well, I learned from Dr. Bryant that you can't really put devices on the crates and anything, during travel, but there's a lot that can be done pre and post travel. And Beth, I think you alluded to earlier how most of the stress is actually taking place pre and post travel. And right. So one of the things that we're working on with Beth now is to really implement Zoundz as being part of the process, where pet parents know that they should start conditioning the pet with Zoundz, weeks prior to the travel. And then so by the time they are traveling and they go into a facility like the ARK, where Zoundz is actually playing within the facility, there is that common thread of Zoundz that the pet can identify with. And then even once they reach their final destination, that transitioning into that new home or wherever that destination may be, Zoundz can also play a part of that process. And one last thing I will say, Zoundz is definitely not an alternative that, once your pet is at their peak of or that anxiety peak, you play Zoundz and the anxiety goes away. It's more about being preventive, and so that's why I really like the idea of utilizing Zoundz in the ARK environment, pre and post travel.
I think that's great. To be honest with you, I'm very happy this union happened here, but trust me, I have other ideas where Zoundz could be used in multiple locations. I mean, even in the veterinary profession, so many pets come into the clinics, they're stressed and worried, and just have this calming music and get them accustomed to that. It would be great. So think about it. It'd be in their homes, they got calming music. We're going to travel. We've got some music to calm them down. If you go into your veterinary hospital, calm them down. I mean, it really could be facilities. Yeah, it could be utilized in so many different avenues and everything. But again, for travel, it definitely is needed. It's definitely needed, I think. So I'm very, very happy when I saw everything. Look, when I saw the photo of you guys, the handshake, I'm like, yes, that's perfect.
Look, Beth and I, we didn't waste any time. One thing I say about Beth, we had a call on Monday, and I think I was at the ARK on Thursday. Yeah. That's how I like to move.
Yeah, that's the way to be. That's a plan. Good. Perfect. Yeah. Any other questions on the thing?
Well, it sounds like it was in heaven, so I'm glad that worked out. And you guys really serve as a good model for other rescues and shelters, for them to think about implementing Zoundz to help keep all of the animals calm and used to their environment. Here's another question. What does the ARK hope to achieve with Zoundz music in its facility and vehicles?
Well, we, as Derek just said, the kind of this preventive aspect that we are hoping for the animals to experience the a familiarity and calming environment throughout the travel process as much as possible. And I think one of the future questions you're going to ask us is what's coming up and what's coming up next. But Derek has plans for expanding the species of Zoundz to other animals, and what's nearest and dearest to our heart is the equine transportation. And clearly we've got highly intelligent animals in the equids, and they're intimately related to us as well, just like the dogs and cats. So we see that music as something moving forward in the travel process throughout all species.
That's perfect.
Which is exciting.
That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So, Derek, what can you tell us? Like, is there a difference between creating music for equine, for example, versus the dogs and the cats?
Yeah, it really is. And that's actually, I mean, when Beth and I first started having this conversation, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago, maybe even a little bit longer, our ultimate goal was to hopefully launch in time for the what's the big Kentucky Derby. But we're not making that date. And the reason why we're not, one of the things that's important for us at Zoundz, we want to really stay rooted in the science. So we're not going to just take, our music from the dogs and cats and like, oh, play this for the horses. So I haven't been able to find the studies that I'm really, really comfortable with. I know they're out there, and I'm just kind of, I'm speaking with some people and going. So the bottom line is the music is different to a certain degree. And it may not be very different, but I'm not comfortable enough in terms of where we're at yet to say, okay, we have this music that's going to work for equine. We're not there yet. Mm-hmm. So but we are making progress. Okay. I will say that we are making progress. Yes.
Good. Well, I like that you're making everything scientifically based and everything with it. So, but it is going to take time. to find all the data that you need and everything. And also it may require sometimes connecting within maybe a veterinary college or university.
Absolutely.
They're behaviorists and see if something can be done to work on it, because at least I can tell you for Cornell, there's an equine research park. So there's different things that potentially they can maybe have develop projects.
Yeah, because I have to say, like, you know, for the dogs and cats, which, by the way, the music for dogs and cats couldn't be more opposite. But for me, as the founder of Zoundz, I find it even today like exciting because it works. Like to see it actually working, you know, is hugely important, and I find exciting. So I want that to carry on, you know, from species to species. So, and again, I know it's out there, but we're going to make sure that we have it as solid as possible before actually roll it out.
That's perfect.
And I will say that, and Nelva, I know you are intimately familiar with this. One of the biggest challenges that we face in this industry, the animal travel industry, is the dearth of scientific data to support our observations. And you know, it's one thing to have anecdotal results and what you can observe, but it's quite another thing to have actual scientific data that one shows actually how many animals are traveling, the importance of animal travel, incidents in animal travel, and it just doesn't exist.
Right.
And it's a major issue, because how do you make these presentations to the necessary authorities or to Congress or to you know, to the veterinary associations without hard data? I know for me, I feel rather foolish sometimes saying, oh, well, this is what we experienced, but I don't have any real data behind it.
Yeah, they definitely needed the data. I'm sorry, but the data and scientific, just anything scientific behind it, the data is definitely needed to for it to happen. And so, but I'm glad that you've done it so far with Zoundz for dogs and cats. With horses, like I said, we just need to expand and potentially make some connections. If there's no studies out, maybe make some connections with some.
Well, we're gonna make it. Look, there's things out there. We're making it happen. But I need to be 100% confident. And there's gonna be some testing. So I've already started to speak with a couple of horse owners and barns and stuff that, you know, where we could actually start. And not to mention, we can. I'm sure Beth wouldn't have a problem once we get to the right point to start even testing in the ARK. So we'll definitely, we're almost there.
I'm just happy you're doing it and everything. So that's good. That's perfect. Hey, look, next step after that will be add another animal species on there, you know?
Yes.
That'd be great.
So Beth, have you seen positive outcomes with the dogs and the cats that are staying there listening to Zoundz?
Yes, and again, this gets back to anecdotal evidence, and I'll let Derek share kind of one of our next initiatives coming up. But we do see when we play the music, particularly, we have 63 kennels in our facility, so it can get quite loud, and if we have a lot of animals in there at the same time, it can be kind of a little stressful even for the humans. And once we start playing the music, things really settle down, and it's actually extraordinary. And even our people say that that it positively affects them. So that's really, we do definitely see positive outcome for that, and we're trying to work on developing some scientific data that actually supports that. So I'll let you take that, Derek.
Well, I won't go too deep into it, but yeah, we do
you
have
want to keep up trade secrets here.
but we do have some exciting stuff that we're doing at the ARK, and we're partnering with another company. I don't want to put their name out there yet because I haven't had to I haven't discussed it with them.
Right.
But yeah, we over the next I think we're gonna have a very exciting time with Beth and the ARK and Zoundz, and there's another company involved. Now, I hate to be like so secretive, but we're going to have some really, I think, exciting information to share over the next like 60, 90 days or so. We're going to have some really exciting stuff to share, for sure.
That's good.
Oh, fantastic. I hope that you both will come back and share all all the great news that you have coming up, especially not just with Dr. Brian and I, but with everybody on our Facebook Live. And
Yes.
also, people can read about this collaboration on our site, winpets.com. So we just want to be there for you to help share your good information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greta.
Well, is there anything? You're welcome. Is there anything, Derek, Beth, that you would like to share in the last few minutes of our Facebook Live together?
No, I think for me, it's just, I thank you all so much for inviting me for the second time. I always love, speaking with you all, and I always love being with Beth. We're getting used to this now.
Yeah.
But no, so I just, I'm very thankful, very grateful for just all of the support that I've been receiving and the industry as a whole, actually. Very thankful.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I'm very grateful to Dr. Bryant for introducing us and for this opportunity. I would also encourage everybody that's hearing us today or reading about us today to educate themselves on animal travel and its challenges, its benefits. I mean, obviously, the biggest benefit of animal travel is bringing people and their animals together. And as we could become a more global society and people are moving all over the world for a variety of reasons, their animals are part of that movement. And it's necessary to move animals. And it's vitally important, but it's also vitally important to maintain public health and to maintain the humane transfer and transport of those animals so that they're not injured and so that there's also no adverse public relations incidents. And so we want this to be a positive experience for everyone. The whole purpose is to unite and not divide with animal transportation, as with many things in our world today. And so I'm happy to be a part of whatever, getting information out there as much as possible. I view what we're doing as much of a service as providing information to the industry and to pet owners and animal owners.
Definitely. No, I love it.
Dr. Bryant?
Yeah, I really appreciate you both being here. I really appreciate the collaboration and what it's going to do for future pet travel with the animals and everything, because now they'll be more relaxed during transport. So if we can now get the pet parents to get their pets acclimated to their crates, get Zoundz in their system before they travel, then Zoundz all the way through the whole process, I think it'll be ideal for those pets traveling. But again, I want to thank you both for being here. I love, actually, like I said, I love what you both do. Actually, I love what you're doing, Derek, by yourself, and I love what you're doing. And now I really love what you're doing together. So that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really awesome. But thank you for being here. I'm sure we'll have reasons to have you here again in the future. But the main thing is, again, I wanted to educate everyone on what's going on with JFK at the ARK and how Derek with Zoundz Music for Pets has kind of combined with them. So it's awesome. So that's what I want.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Brian. Thank you, Greta. Beth, I'll see you soon.
Yep. See you soon. Take care.
I'll see you soon, Derek, too.
That's right.
Thanks, Greta. You've been great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Oops. I'm sorry. I removed you. Who did I remove?
Are we live? Oh, no, I'm not. It says you're in.
No, we're still live.
Oh, okay, we are still live.
Hold on. Greta, you got to shut it off. Greta? Okay. Oh, Greta?